Now is Congressman Adam Schiff of California. He's the ranking member on the Intelligence Committee. If you were with us from the start, you saw his opening press conference there. Congressman Schiff, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Chuck.
Let me start basically. When did you first learn what Chairman Nunes shared with the public?
Well, I think I first learned, Chuck, when you did, when the chairman had his presser and made this statement. We got notice that the chairman was going to do a solo press availability. We've usually done those jointly, and much as we asked what the subject was, we weren't informed, and that was, I guess, the beginning of our concern. But I have to say things became quite more alarming after that. It's simply not possible to do a credible investigation if you take information that's pertinent to the scope of what you're investigating and bring it to the White House instead of bring it to your own committee. So today's actions, I think, have really been a body blow to the credibility of the committee, and we're going to have a real heart-to-heart about this tomorrow.
Well, let me, have you had a conversation with him since, though, with Chairman Nunes?
Yes, I did. I had a conversation
can you tell me about
him. I had a conversation with him about this evening where I expressed my grave concerns with what the chairman did today, the fact that none of us have seen the intercepts that he has seen, and I don't think either Democrats or Republicans on the committee really have the capacity to evaluate this because none of us have seen it. So whether it is even significant or not, we can't say. I also can tell you from our conversation that it appears that the names were masked in the information, although there may have been some names that were unmasked. They didn't appear to be related to the Trump organization or Trump transition team. The chairman's concern seemed to be that he could figure out who the masked names were. Well, that doesn't indicate that there was any problem in the masking. And the chairman himself said that he had no indications that the surveillance was somehow unlawful. So it's not clear, whether there's even a there. And this is particularly the problem when information is not shared with the committee the way it should be, but instead is shared with the White House. And that problem is compounded, Chuck, when it's the president's own campaign team that is the subject of investigation. So a lot of problems with this. All right. And I think a real threat to the credibility of the investigation.
All right, but one thing that Congressman Nunes, the Chairman Nunes also said was this came from not the official channels. He didn't quite say they were unofficial, but he seemed to say point blank it didn't come from the heads of these agencies, which concerned him more. Are you concerned that if there was even something as incidental as this, that the heads of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI weren't as forthcoming with the committee as they should have been?
No, not at all. And I think the directors were fully forthcoming about this. Just based on what the chairman said, and again, it's impossible to evaluate without the materials, but this involved foreign surveillance, not involving Russia, not targeted at Mr. Trump or his associates, in which people's identities were incidentally collected. And what that can mean, Chuck, is you have, let's say, two Chinese business people talking to each other about how they want to do business with Donald Trump, and his name is mentioned. That would be incidental collection, even though it doesn't involve any communication directly from a Chinese official to anyone in the Trump organization. The fact that his name is mentioned is considered incidental collection. His name would then be masked. His name could be unmasked if it was important to understand the significance of the intelligence. But what I gathered from the chairman was the names of the U.S. persons, if they were people in the Trump organization, were in fact masked. So it's very difficult to discern what's the relevance here. But even on the basis of what the chairman has said, it doesn't cast any doubt on what we heard from both directors this week, and that is there is simply no evidence that the president was the subject of wiretapping by his predecessor.
But didn't we already know that some Trump officials were caught up in some in some of these FISA-approved wiretaps? Mike Flynn and his conversations with Ambassador Kislyak. It was, put it this way, everybody in your situation that has gotten a briefing sort of implied, well, of course the Russian ambassador is commonly under surveillance. Could this be simply a reference to Flynn?
Chuck, I don't know. I assume that it is not as simple a matter as that, only because the chairman says it doesn't involve Russia. But nonetheless, we really have no idea. And again, we will be requesting in the committee access to whatever evidence the chairman has received, if it can be called evidence, to see whether it has any pertinence whatsoever to this investigation. And indeed, if it doesn't involve Russia, that raises a profound question about whether it is pertinent. But nonetheless, in the absence of that, we simply can't evaluate any of these claims.
I got to ask you something that you said also to me on Sunday, is that you thought that at the time former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper was too definitive when he said no evidence of collusion at the time that he served through essentially January 20th of this year. What basis can you feel confident saying that the Director of National Intelligence oversold something?
Well, look, I don't think it was deliberate on the director's part, but all I can tell you is, reviewing the evidence that I have, I don't think you can conclude that at all. Far from it.
But you admit it's all you have right now is a circumstantial case.
Actually, no, Chuck. I can tell you that the case is more than that, and I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. So, again, I think...
So you have seen direct evidence of collusion?
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is evidence that is not circumstantial and is very much worthy of investigation. So that is what we ought to do. Now, again, I think we have been dealt a serious body blow to the credibility of our ability to get answers by today's events. And to me, it underscores the importance of having an independent commission look at this as a supplement to anything the Congress does.
Have you completely lost confidence in Devin Nunes to be your investigative partner in this?
Well, you know, I have to say my confidence has been severely shaken today, and we will certainly have a heart-to-heart in the days to come about how we go forward.
What can he do? What can he do to reassure you?
Well, I think that the chairman needs to think about which role he wants to play here. Is he going to play a role as a surrogate for the administration, or is he going to play a role as leading an independent investigation? He can't do both. And if he decides to do the latter, which I think is the real public service here, then I think he needs to explain what he did here today and commit never to undertake something like that again.
So what you're saying is there's a chance for this relationship between you and him to recover?
Well, look, I hope so, because, again, at the moment, we are the only investigation going on in the House.
So you're not walking... you're not going to walk away under any circumstance?
Chuck, at the end of the day, and however this turns out, I want to know that I did everything possible to make this investigation succeed. And that's why I'm trying so hard. But I have to say, today was very discouraging. It's
an interesting word you just used, succeed. What's the definition of success?
Well, in my view, the definition of success here is that we conduct a nonpartisan investigation and we reach a common conclusion that we can share with the country. That, to me, is what is most in the national interest. And, you know, that's what I'm trying to do. I need the chairman to commit to trying to do that as well. And today's events were deeply discouraging.
Congressman Adam Schiff, I appreciate you coming on last minute.